Okay, good. We're all here. So we are
Perfect.
recording it. If you catch the recording, you'll grab all of our info. I just wanted to introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Demi, and I am the manager at OsteoStrong in Wilmette. OsteoStrong is a unique place where we help improve your overall health through the skeletal system. And now that we are indoors, we still want to stay connected with everybody. And I'd like to use this time to do a variety of virtual talks and keep everybody connected and healthy, which today we have Dr. Jordan Leasure, who is the founding physician of North Shore Proactive Health, a state-of-the-art wellness clinic in Libertyville, Illinois. She is a doctor of chiropractor with a distinction in functional medicine and has been nominated one of Illinois' healthiest employers. She is a passionate speaker, educator, and serial wellness entrepreneur. Her goal is to make wellness approachable, achievable, and implementable for all. So I'm so happy to have her on today to teach us about how we can boost our immune system during this time by managing our stress. So take it away, Jordan.
Absolutely. So there are so many things that we can talk about when it comes to stress and it comes to immunity. And I figured that we would cover, a handful of things, and then we'll see if there are questions or topics that you wanted me to cover to me, and we'll kind of go from there if that works for everybody. In our practice, we have a three-pronged approach. We look at everything from a mental, physical, and spiritual aspect. And I find, when it comes to the physical, which is again a lot of what your clients are doing with you at home, setting a schedule is key. So even if you're sort of on reprieve right now, if you don't need to be working, or this was supposed to be your spring break, so you've secured a little bit extra free time, implementing and maintaining that routine schedule is going to be key. So waking up at the same time every day, going to bed at the same time, getting your workouts in around the same time is going to be important, and mixing up those workouts. So keeping in track with what you've been taught at OsteoStrong, doing yoga, doing some maybe more aggressive workouts if that fits with your routine as well, something that's going to get your heart rate up is going to be good. We had some fantastic weather here in Chicago yesterday. I hope that a lot of people were able to get out and take advantage of that, boost the vitamin D along with the activity. That's super important as well. And I really like when it comes to the mental and emotional aspects, they go hand in hand. So we implement some meditation, and that means something different literally for everyone that does meditation. There are plenty of types of meditation. There are free resources. There are apps available. And a simple meditation is as easy as breathing appropriately. And many of us, especially women, I find in our practice, don't breathe correctly. So if everybody has a quick second here, I'll run through a breathing exercise. And if you want to put one hand on your chest by your heart, and ideally you're sitting up straight when you're doing this, feet flat on the floor, and one hand on the belly. And you can go ahead and take a deep breath in for me. And I sort of call it a race. So as you're breathing in, you want to see which hand wins that race. Is it the top hand that's by your chest, or is it the bottom hand that's by the belly? And if you notice that consistently the top hand is the one that's winning, we want to change up how you're breathing. So we want you to take that breath in and force it all the way down into the belly, so the belly's expanding. It's sort of the opposite of the way that a lot of women breathe. We're sort of taught to keep our tummy in tight. We do a lot of Pilates, a lot of what we think is core strengthening, and actually we're kind of detrimental to ourselves. So if we're able to force that air down into our tummy and expand the belly as we're breathing, that will help us relax, which in turn, in the long run, will help us boost our immune system, because we'll be able to modulate our cortisol levels. A few other quick hints and tips that I like are keeping a gratitude journal. It's so simple, and we can get creative now that we have a little bit more time at home. So usually I recommend to clients that they keep a journal next to the bed, write down 3 things that you're grateful for every day. And now, again, because we have a little bit more time and we're with a little bit more, seeing a little bit more of our family, sometimes it's a good thing and sometimes it can be some additional stress. But you can keep a fishbowl or a vase, maybe in a central location in the home with some paper and pens next to it. And every day it's everyone's task to write down one thing that they're grateful for. Now, depending on the size of the family, that may accumulate relatively quickly, and you may want to go through that each day or every couple days and see what everybody has to report. And if not, if you're home by yourself, if the family is a little bit smaller, if you have small children, of course you can help them with this. But maybe you go through it at the end of the day, or maybe you save all of this until we're released, and you can go through and see what everybody was grateful for. Because it's always interesting to see during times of stress and struggle what we find that we're most grateful for, when it's kind of challenging to come up with something sometimes. Some of the additional physical recommendations during this time that are going to help modulate our stress and in turn boost our immune system is definitely going to be eating clean. So in our practice, we recommend that, generally speaking, gluten and dairy are very inflammatory. So if clients are able to minimize their consumption of those, and that can be challenging for some of us, but if you're able to minimize that or eliminate it altogether, you'll actually see an improvement in mood. You'll see hopefully a weight loss, and you'll see an improvement in your immune system, because those are actually very mucogenic foods. So they increase mucus. It's kind of a nasty topic, but it's important this time of year, whether we're trying to fight off a virus or we're dealing with seasonal allergies. If we can get rid of that mucus, then we're getting rid of the home that the virus and or bacteria are hoping to live in. So that's a quick and easy recommendation. Taking probiotics is going to be very key, making sure you're taking a high quality probiotic. That's the good bacteria in our stomach. And we can get some of that. I recommend that clients do both, that they take a high quality probiotic and that they also eat fermented foods. That's going to be really beneficial if you can get your hands on some sauerkraut or what was I just drinking? Kombucha. So there's a couple options there. I actually got my toddler to try that. I call it his fizzy tea. So, and a little goes a long way. Don't feel like you need to be eating and or drinking quite a bit of that. And then finally, I'm a big fan of a product called Relaxed Life, and it's a inositol, powdered inositol. And I use that quite regularly in my office. It helps with serotonin modulation, which is a neurotransmitter that helps us to feel better. It helps with motivation. And this time of year, we can use a little bit of that. Our happy chemicals and our immune system go hand in hand. And when we're feeling insecure or we're feeling stressed out, we're going to impact those hormone levels and not feel as happy, healthy, and energetic as we should. So our fight or flight system is what we're trying to balance with all of those recommendations that I made. And I think the easiest way that all of us can relate to that is to think of ourselves as an African on the plane. And it sounds kind of funny while we're all sitting in our northern suburban homes, but our physiology doesn't know that. So our body hasn't quite caught up with the century that we're in. And it imagines us all as more primitive beings, and we're designed to, have our stressors come to the end. Essentially, if we're being chased by the lion, either we're going to get away or we're going to become dinner. But one way or another, that stress is going to end. And these days, especially with the heightened environment that we're in right now, it's sort of like 24/7, and that stress doesn't shut off. And unfortunately, that's very taxing. And that in turn, after taxing our emotions, is going to be draining on our immune system. So it's going to set us up to, unfortunately, be more susceptible to getting sick. So we want to watch how much perceived stress, and that's the stress that we kind of create ourselves, how much perceived stress we make ourselves susceptible to. You know, real stress would be the lion, or nowadays, losing a job or being hit by a car. You know, those are realistic, real stressors. A lot of us, unfortunately, become attacked by what's going on in our brain and our perceived stress. So the creation of stress. But that's my quick and dirty implementable steps for people that we can help to manage our stress, and then in turn keep our immune system nice and robust.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I love the gratitude journal idea. I see that a lot, and it's something that I've done here and there of writing things
Good.
down. Like, it is really good to just be able to acknowledge that, because like you said, with fight or flight and the stress, it's very easy to just think about the bad and get really stressed and then just stay in that kind of mode. So it is good
Yes.
to have that, acknowledge that. I would say, ask you, do you have any recommendations on a really good probiotic? I myself take a probiotic with immune support from Garden of Life, but I don't know if you have any other brand recommendations, or what do you like?
Absolutely. So, full disclosure, I own a supplement company. So that's, you know, typically what I recommend, but I'll explain to you why. So supplements, many people don't realize that supplements are an unregulated industry, which means that they're not like your pharmaceutical drugs that you're prescribed. Pretty much anyone can cook anything up in their kitchen, put a great label on it, and sell it. And, you know, if something says it's 100 milligrams of vitamin C, it doesn't necessarily have to be. They did a study most recently where they took 10 different samples from different big box stores, and I'm not going to call anybody out, but 10 different samples of products for an antidepressant supplement called St. John's wort. And it's an herbal supplement. It's used routinely for depression. It's great when it is the actual product. Now, what happened with these 10 samples was they found that none of them contained the amount of St. John's wort that they were reported to have. And 2 of them had no St. John's wort at all. They were fillers and binders and stuff. And 2 of them actually were full of a laxative. And so it's sort of a scary world. So that's my quick and dirty general recommendation when someone is searching for supplements. I always recommend that you purchase from a functional medicine physician. Please do not purchase from online retailers, because in that situation, you really don't know what you're getting. And it's kind of a scary world out there, unfortunately. When it comes to probiotics, there are lots of different probiotics on the market. And the 2 things that I typically recommend is it's a live bacteria, or it should be a live bacteria. So you want to buy it either refrigerated, so it should come from the manufacturer to the retailer, ideally with ice packs, and then it should be stored in the refrigerator. When you purchase it, you know, either at the store, at the clinic, you're taking it out of a refrigerator and then bringing it home and hopefully keeping it refrigerated. And then the other option is something that's in a blister pop pack, which means that each individual pill is stored in nitrogen. And that helps to keep it alive as well, because the things that are going to kill that good bacteria is going to be heat, water. So you want to be careful once you get it home that you're using dry hands when you reach for it. Ideally, if you're taking your capsules from a bottle, you're able to pour just 1 capsule into the lid and take it out. Don't reach in with your hand, because you can add a little bit of dampness into the bottle. So those are my generic recommendations. And then really knowing what you're looking for. So that's part of the benefit of working with a functional medicine practitioner, because there are so many options out there. There are probiotics that are great after an infection. So if you've had to be on an antibiotic, there are probiotics that are better for women. There are probiotics that are perfect for children. We're each a little bit different. We carry one online on the Salutogenic Life is our website, and it is stored in a blister pop pack. And that's our general one. It's 30 billion CFU, and you take one per day, pretty easy. But any of us that have been on an antibiotic, experienced stress, eating processed foods and or sugar kills our good bacteria as well. And yes, wine and alcohol do count as sugar. So we want to be careful with those things. But yeah, probiotics are key this time of year to keep our immune system healthy and also to manage our stress. Great question.
And please feel free, anybody, if you have any questions for Dr. Jordan, type it in the chat box or unmute yourself and ask a question as well.
Hi, Jordan. This is Diane Testa. You and I met many years ago, so it's really nice to see you. Hi. Hey, I've just got a question for you just regarding diet generally. I'm mostly plant-based, but especially for immunity. You know, what's your sort of recommendation? 85%? Is there a certain percentage of plant, fruit, and, you know, do you recommend eating any meat at all?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Everyone's an individual. So my generic answer is whatever seems to have been working for you, stick with it. I like having 9 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, whether you're doing strictly vegetarian or if you're adding in meat as well. 9 is really the key number, and that may seem overwhelming for some people, but if you can break it into 3s is the way that I do it. So 3 servings of green, deep leafy greens, 3 servings of color, and then 3 servings of sulfur. So the sulfur is going to be, let's say I call them like my odoriferous ones, if I can. It's going to be your onions, it's going to be your garlic, it's going to be your shallots, things like that. So if you break it down that way, it seems much more manageable for people. And then when it comes to the meat servings, again, it's very personalized, but be very picky with what you're eating. So your grass-fed beef, your wild-caught fish, especially if you're able to get local, from local farms, obviously, you know, that's our way to go. I try to recommend red meat no more than twice a week, and ideally not 2 days in a row. Those are my typical food recommendations. I have a great, and I think it's a free resource. I made a vegetarian meal plan, a week of meals. So that's on that Salutogenic Life website. You can download it for free. I've had just a lot of vegetarian patients lately, and their big challenge was, I think, sort of what you were insinuating to, what do I eat? How do I eat? How do I keep it exciting and new without spending, 40 minutes a day searching for meals and recipes? Because the internet is a great resource, but a lot of us busy women, we don't have time to be looking through for recipes, even if they're free. So I put this week together. And I had great, I tried the recipes. They taste wonderful. They look beautiful. And that might be something that you find helpful.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really a great overview. Just one follow-up question on that. Mm-hmm. And I've always wondered, what's a serving size? Like what's the quantity on a serving size?
That's a great question too. It differs. And unfortunately, we used to refer to, a serving of meat as like the palm of our hands, but each of us is very different. I mean, I'm 5'10", I have pretty big hands. So that's a pretty big serving. And I have, friends and clients that are very petite, and it's very tiny for them. So my recommendation is always, if you're filling your plate with those colorful fruits and vegetables, you're not going to overdo it. So don't hesitate in that arena. And, typically a cup or, like a fist size is a good benchmark. Honestly, I don't measure anything. try to eat the rainbow. That's one of the easiest distinctions. So if you're going to sit down with a cup of berries, I'd rather see you do a handful of raspberries, a handful of blueberries, and by handful, I mean, like a sprinkling, as opposed to just sitting down and doing, one serving of blueberries, because their phytonutrients are going to change depending on the color of the fruit. So mix it up. Variety is the spice of life.
Great. Thank you. That's so helpful.
Absolutely. It's great to hear from you.
Well, that's fun. I'm glad you guys know each other, kind of. That's why I like doing things like this.
Right? The North Shore is a small place.
Awesome. Well, anybody else have any questions? These are all really good tips. I'm also plant-based, and when I talk to some other people, I'm always like, just eat all the colors. Just throw all the colors on your plate.
Yeah, that's one of the easiest things that I recommend to clients. And now, go out, and if you are still going out and shopping for yourself, pick out something that you haven't had before. We have the opportunity right now to spend a little more time on meal preparation or do some research on what something is. And I think that all of us have a tendency to get in a rut and continue to eat the same. We like it. We know what to do with it. And when it comes to preparation, we know what to expect. And we get kind of consistent, at least I do. So if you're able to purchase something that you've never eaten, you learn something new, you try something new, you're mixing up colors. My son's a big fan of purple sweet potatoes. I don't think I'd ever had one until he was born. But it's nice to experiment and get out of your comfort zone. But that's why I started doing these meal plans for clients, because we need to make sure that we're adding a little bit of variety into what we're doing.
Right. And that is important, to just try something new. And like something that my husband and I have talked about in the past with food is like, if we want to go out to buy it or, go to a restaurant or whatever, especially now, we should actually try to make it ourselves, whatever that meal is, and then make it more healthy or more vegetables. But just trying to do it ourselves is something that we need.
I like that, because you never really know. And one thing when it comes to food is egg quality. I actually didn't talk about that. But part of the reason a lot of us develop food sensitivities is because we are consuming too many processed foods. And literally by processed, I mean anything that is not a raw fruit, vegetable, or meat product, anything that is combined. And typically you'll see a lot of those are going to be containing eggs, and they're not going to be the best quality eggs that are out there. When you're searching for eggs, if you consume eggs, you want to make sure that you are looking for prairie raised eggs. And there's a lot of marketing terms out there, unfortunately. Natural is thrown around a lot. Organic, I think, is overused. Sometimes something doesn't need to be organic to be the best option for you. But when it comes to eggs, labeling is very important. So doing prairie raised eggs is always what I look for. There's sort of a hierarchy of quality of egg. And, you'll have your run-of-the-mill caged eggs. And those are, again, going to be a whole bunch of hens in cages in a barn. A step up from that is going to be cage-free. And essentially what that means is that they've got all the hens in all the cages inside the barn, and they open the doors. But unfortunately, oftentimes there's so much overcrowding that, the hens can't even get out of the cages. The upgrade from that, of course, is free range. And what that means is that they've got all the hens in all of the cages in the barn. However, they open the doors to the barn. So if you're lucky enough to be one of the hens that lives near the door, then maybe you get to go outside. Maybe you get a little bit of fresh air. You've got that as an option. And maybe you get a little bit of wild feed. Meanwhile, the majority of these hens are going to be fed corn, which is one of the 8 most inflammatory foods. The best eggs, again, are going to be those prairie raised eggs, which are hens, at least when I think of a farm, this is the picture that I have. It's picturesque, and the hens are out, and they're mingling in the sunshine, and they're eating grubs, and they're eating bugs, and they're eating the grass, and they're laying the eggs. It's sort of like an Easter egg hunt to go pick up the eggs, and then they, the farmers sell the eggs. So that's typically what you're purchasing when you're purchasing, pasture raised, and make sure you're not buying pasteurized, because I've seen that. But that's my egg, quick info on eggs. And, of course, the reason that's so important is if we're taxing our system and we're impacting our gut and causing that leaky gut, we're making those junctions looser, we're making ourselves more susceptible to infection, and we're decreasing our resistance. So it all comes full circle, and it's challenging to take care of your health. Sometimes it might feel like a full-time job, but again, if we don't take care of ourselves, where are we going to live?
Very good point. We need to take care of our bodies first and then see what follows next. Diane says, thank you so much for the explanation on eggs. I never knew the difference. And actually, since you brought up that they're fed a lot of corn, do you have a stance on corn? Is that like a grain or something that we should be limiting or avoiding?
So it's hard. So if we follow everything to a T, it's almost like there's nothing left to eat. So I always try to take, you can relate.
Yeah, well, like for me, I gave up, the animals. I do the plant-based. Then I try to give up, I'm aiming on the gluten, in which you noted on today. And then, I thought of the corn, and then I was like, what's left?
Right. And depending on, different nationalities, we're very ingrained in, in what we eat. I mean, I'm Italian, and if my grandfather was alive to hear me say you shouldn't be eating pasta, he'd probably smack me upside the head. But the problem is, in the United States, our food, our raw materials that we're utilizing for food, is very, very poor. And then everything that we do to our food, it's very overprocessed. So, eating, let's say, a pasta dinner here versus going to Italy and eating a pasta dinner in Italy, it's a completely different animal, so to speak. So yes, unfortunately in the United States, we got to watch what we're eating. The 8 most inflammatory foods, some of them, again, are going to be dairy, it's going to be your gluten, it's going to be corn, soy, sugar, artificial sweeteners and colors, and that corn. And again, part of the problem with corn is that it's in everything. So everything has corn syrup, everything has, corn that is GMO, and that could be like a whole nother talk. So we kind of got to look at, what we're eating and how processed it is. The cleaner that you can eat, the better. And for you, corn might be okay. So for a lot of my patients, we'll run a food sensitivity panel, and then we know for sure, is corn safe or is corn on your do not eat list.
Nope. Diane put, is there such thing as organic corn?
Which, there is.
Yeah, good question, because I feel like I've seen that here and there, and I was like, is this real? Because isn't majority of corn on the cob GMO?
Yeah, the majority of corn, and again, it's in the United States. A lot of it is GMO, and that's scary how that impacts our body and how our genes respond to that. It absolutely serves its purpose, but again, it was created for different utilizations than us in the United States, but we're the ones that are consuming a lot of it. I was going to look up, I made a great resource. Maybe I can email it to you and you can make it available. But if you want to take a look, EWG puts out every year the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. And typically what those are the fruits and vegetables that are sprayed the most, so the most pesticides. Those are the ones that you want to be buying organic. For most of us, we don't have an unlimited meal budget. So we need to take a look at, where we're using our spending. And I, for the most part, will buy everything organic off of that Dirty Dozen list. And the Clean 15 is one that you don't have to worry about as much, because even conventionally grown fruits and vegetables are not sprayed or not susceptible. So I always tell my clients to take a photo of that with your phone. So if you're shopping, it's easier to remember. You can just refer back to the picture. But if you think of things that you eat the skin, a lot of the times those are the ones that you want to be buying organic. So especially berries, apples, this year, even peppers, were on there. So that's always a sort of an easy way to pick out what you should eat and how you should shop.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have one last question. If anybody else has a question, also chime in. But as far as soy, I know it's also primarily GMO here in the US, especially. Is that something though that so long as it's non-GMO, like are you okay with that? Or are you just like no soy altogether?
It depends on how you're utilizing soy. So if you're using fresh soy and it's, not overly processed, then it's not as bad. But if you're using it and you're an individual that does, again, the problem a lot of times is in the processing. So if you're doing soy burgers and soy hot dogs and, soy cheese, all of these sort of like fake foods, that I would try to minimize. And unfortunately, being a vegetarian, it can be challenging, because you want to eat that stuff. You want to feel like, everybody else is eating a burger. I'm going to eat a burger. so I can understand. And I sort of subscribe to everything in moderation. So if you're able to mix up what you're doing and 80% of the time you're eating really clean and you're getting those servings of fruits and vegetables and your detox pathways are working like they should, then I have less of a concern. But for some of us, if we have hormone issues or thyroid issues and our system, isn't functioning as well as it could be, and we have too much inflammation going on, soy can, some of that GMO soy can be kind of inflammatory for us.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Now we just have a few more minutes left. Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Jordan before we wrap up? Well, thank you so much, Jordan,
Absolutely.
for your time. Yes, please feel free to send me that resource that you have, and I will send it out to everyone that was here today, and that would be good.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me. I think that, the keys right now, I know we want to talk about immunity, and I think that it's a challenging world that we're living in, no matter the day, but if we're able to integrate some of those recommendations that I made early on, each of us is very unique. So how much of those recommendations that one person needs to do in order to feel healthy or maintain health is going to vary. Our chemistry is different. If someone is suffering from chronic disease or if someone is exceedingly healthy and they take their vitamins and supplements and eat clean most of the time and regulate their health and well-being, they'll be doing really well. The easiest thing I can leave everyone with is, your genes are not your destiny. About 93% of disease is based on lifestyle choices, and that goes for, how our immune system is reacting as well. So when I lecture, I usually tell patients, if you think of your genes as your arm. So a lot of us have that gene for heart disease or the gene for cancer, the gene for diabetes and obesity. And if we're making those healthy choices that I hit on earlier, you're rolling down your sleeve and you're protecting yourself. So you're not going to express those genes. And if you do, so if you're diagnosed with diabetes or even cancer, let's say, you will be in a much better place in order to fight them off. Now, on the flip side of that, if your life is continually stressed, and whether that's, again, real stress or perceived stress, and you're not eating as healthy as you could be, you're not taking vitamins, you're not working out, then essentially what you're doing is you're rolling up your sleeves and you're saying, come get me. And you're allowing yourself the opportunity to express those diseases. So if everybody, makes one one more healthy choice than they did yesterday, then you're on the right track. And that's essentially all we can hope for. You do what works for you.
Thank you so much for saying that. I'm a big believer in that our genes are not our destination. We have the power to change
Absolutely.
that. So thank you. We had Wendy say thanks, great info, and Diane, thank you so much for your time. This was extremely informative.
Awesome.
If there's no other questions, thank you so much, Dr. Jordan, for this. This was super helpful, and I hope everyone got something good out of it.
That was so much fun. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. See you next time, everybody.